Kings Island opening weekend is in the books. There were some hits, there were some misses, and it's that time of year. If you're thinking about buying or renewing your season pass, we have a way for you to save some money. Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are and that's who we care about. Hey, let's take a moment to give a shout out to our Prestige members. Thank you so much. Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Stephen Horneck, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Dustin Jackson, Songs for Smiku, and Dakota Cole. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the content, exclusive videos, exclusive live streams. We just had one the other day.
That was fun.
And you can get some free stuff. So hit that link in the description.
That list gets longer. It seems like every week with more.
I'm going to have to take a breath in between at some point.
Yeah, it's been great to have everyone's support there. But Ryan, Kings Island is open for the season. You were there opening weekend. What were your initial thoughts? You got back into the park. How did it feel?
I mean, it obviously felt great to be back. Especially with this shorter off season, it's almost like you blink your eye and you come back again. Lots of stuff has changed. Lots of stuff has remained the same, so we're going to go through a lot of the different things that we saw, as well as kind of reacting to things that people said online that either I also experienced or didn't experience. So we're going to have kind of that description too.
Yeah. And that sentiment that we're going to be talking about, a lot of it came from you, our listeners. Some of you, sent us, some of your feedback. We, went through TripAdvisor, pulled a sentiment report just to see what people were saying about the opening weekend. But most of it, Ryan, I thought was highly positive. People happy to be back in the park and very pleased about the things they saw.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I feel like, opening day for the Reds is opening day, but there's a huge sect of the Cincinnati group that, Kings Island's opening day really is the national holiday.
Yeah, and some of the negative, I mean, there were some misses by the park, and I think a lot of that revolved around mostly what I saw, like through TripAdvisor and the sentiment reports, had to do with some of the staff, maybe being a little bit too tight, a little bit too strict, coming across as maybe not real friendly. And I'm talking about situations where somebody gets up into the station to ride a certain ride, and there's open seats, but they're being instructed on where to go, non-negotiable. That's where you're sitting, or you're not going to ride. So some little things like that came about, but really not too much, Ryan. And you would think, opening weekend, a lot of people, a lot of associates, it's their first job. I think for the most part, it seemed like everything went well.
I mean, I thought it went very, very well. I had my own hiccup and stuff, and I'll touch on that in just a second. I will say this though. I spent a part of both days with our field reporter Noah, and he just got tall enough to ride Orion and Diamondback and whatever the 54 inches or whatever the threshold is for that. He wanted to ride in specific seats for a bunch of stuff. We didn't have that issue. He wanted to ride in the front. Actually, his little sister got to ride in the front of Snoopy Soapbox Racers, and it was her first time riding because she was just tall enough, and they couldn't have been more courteous about it. I actually had an issue with my pass where it didn't recognize my meal plan. On preview day, everything got so backed up that they started just letting people in without scanning them, which seems to happen every preview day, by the way. And they said your meal plan and everything will work and so on. So I go to Rivertown Potato Works, scan it, and they're like, we don't have a record of you having a meal plan. I'm like, oh, great. So they gave me the food. They were very polite, very professional about it and so on. I got the food, got the chicken tenders there, by the way. I sampled a lot of chicken tenders because of our awards banquet that we want to have. And they said I had to go to guest services. Guest services had a line that was stretching out onto International Street. It's a little bit crazier when I got there, but by the time I got there, when I went to guest services a few hours later, it was still kind of on International Street, but not to Build-A-Bear,
Right.
I must say that they got me through rather quickly. I timed it just to see how long it would take. 10 minutes maybe. They had this great system down where they had a rides manager there that was pulling people out of line that were there for the disability access. Obviously, I was there for something different. I went inside. I dealt with a gentleman named Mike. He was very helpful. He figured out that the system wasn't picking me up because they didn't scan my pass to come in, so it didn't work the way that they thought it was going to work. He scanned me in. He said, I think that's going to fix it. If it doesn't, then I want you to walk up to the person running the door and you can skip the line and come see me and we'll try something else. Fortunately, no problem. So shout out to Mike. Thank you so much for helping me out. That was seamless. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, I remember, you texted me after you got into the park and you said they weren't scanning, and I said that might affect your dining plan and that, and looks like it did a little bit. But speaking of dining, that was one of the things too. Usually opening weekend, you get a lot of complaints about how long it took to get your food, or if the food was, the quality of it and those kind of things. And what I tell people is, Chef Ramsay, they're not born on trees. You got to develop them. And sometimes, it takes a couple of weeks for them to get their rhythm. But for the most part, everything seemed to be really good in that area as well. Not as much negative sentiment about the dining experience as you see in other years, because it seemed like everything went pretty smooth.
Yeah, it's funny because we dropped our episode on the meal plan because they announced it so close to opening day that we did our episode and it dropped on, I guess, Monday, and it didn't become a referendum on the meal plan. It became a referendum on what people tried, and it was very positive. We had this and it was delicious and so on. I had several different experiences at various restaurants. Some were better than others, but I would say for day one being kind of a B+ experience, I'll hand it to them.
All right, some things around the park. Coney Barbecue. They have a new smoker. That's great news because that means burnt ends. They're going to be on the menu every day this season. I know that was something that we had discussed in a previous episode, that we weren't seeing that. So we were, a little bit maybe disappointed if those weren't going to be there. But I think that's great news.
I agree. Now, somebody in the comments said that the smoker had not yet been installed, which I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that they had burnt ends both days of preview weekend. So all's well that ends well, I suppose, but good for them. I know that the burnt ends are really popular. That's not my cup of tea, really, but the people that love burnt ends love burnt ends, and the park has particularly good ones from what I gather.
Any update on the Hush Puppy supply opening weekend?
Hush Puppy supply was sufficient.
Okay, I knew that you were going to be looking at that. But another one of your favorite subjects is the Prestige Pass, and that continued to be a bit of an issue, for those, paying for certain benefits that they didn't get. One of the things that was out there, whether it's Facebook, it was X, it was, out on TripAdvisor, was those with the Prestige Pass thinking they're going to be able to park in that reserved area, found that anybody and their brother was able to park there. Nobody was manning that, so that was a big issue. And also that 2-hour fast lane at the front gate that allows you to go through quicker. That wasn't being used for that. That they were just pushing everybody through that they could on the pass holder preview day. The Prestige pass holders pushing back on social, saying it's a benefit they paid for. It doesn't matter how crowded it gets. They're still entitled to that benefit, and they weren't getting it.
I didn't know about that. I didn't see it. I'm not a Prestige pass holder anymore, infamously. But I can totally see that happening. I know that when the line was huge on preview day, they were going around saying like, hey, Prestige pass, enter to the right. So they did have the lanes. But from what I'm gathering from what people are saying is, yeah, if you had a gold pass, a silver pass, it didn't matter. They would still scan you in. And I always wondered if that was the case when I had a Prestige Pass too, where it says Prestige Pass only, but like they're not going to turn you away. That would take them staffing somebody at the entrance to that enclave to say like, hey, do you have a Prestige Pass? No. All right, then go over there.
And there was also some taking note about a discount sign that was posted for season pass. Now Prestige is supposed to get a little bit better deal, but according to the sign, it doesn't look so.
Yeah. This is a class. Okay, to be clear, you get a 15% discount with Prestige. But this is just a classic case of the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing due to, poor communication, or maybe it's the hierarchy that they have now. But clearly, this is showing gold, silver, and prestige, and it says 10% off, and it's an exclusive pass holder discount. I feel like that's kind of miscommunicating. It is a little bit more complicated that 2 get 1 discount and 1 gets another. So it would actually be kind of a more fun sign if it was like silver gets 5, gold gets 10, prestige gets 15. I mean, that would make a lot more sense.
Well, it should. I mean, you're devaluing the gold pass too by giving silver that same type of a discount.
Yeah.
It's just that it's interesting how everything used to kind of be geared toward gold getting the best possible deal, and that's not the case anymore. So if you're not interested in the fall season or Winterfest, you might as well just get silver and save some money there, because you're getting the same deal that gold's getting for the most
Yeah,
part here.
you don't get early entry. That's notable. I'm not an early entry guy, but I know that a lot of people are, and I know that when we talked about how their early entry like really wasn't super exciting this year, it ruffled a lot of feathers. But yeah, I mean, especially because you can technically buy a silver pass this year and then buy a gold pass in August if you want to save a little bit of money, so you don't have overlapping passes because your benefits work. So like when and if 2026 is like 2025, then come August when the gold pass goes on sale for 2026, if you buy one new and you add the pass benefits, the meal plan, the drink plan, and so on, they'll be good immediately. So yeah, you might as well just switch back and forth. You can, I mean, if anything, you can save yourself a few bucks. That is not the cost saving deal that we're going to talk about here in the future, but that is one idea.
All right, the Liberty Bell topiary, that's been a signature attraction at Kings Island since 1976. Guests
Mm-hmm.
noticed that had been removed. Now it's not always out in the spring, but the structure that holds the bell in place, that is gone. This area is under construction. It's going to be used for a food and wine shelter, maybe other events. She walked around this area of the park, Ryan. What were your thoughts? Is this a good place to do something like this? What's your thoughts here? Go ahead.
I mean, it was a pretty serene and peaceful section of the park, and I hate to see it being torn up like this, especially for food and wine that I'm not entirely convinced that the company is committed to. So it's going to be food and wine. They're going to find something for Grand Carnival to do under there, and then ultimately it's going to be a seating area in a year or two. So I'm kind of disappointed with that. Of course, I'm passing judgment without seeing the final product. The final product could be amazing, but
Yeah.
the general idea of tearing out this grassy area that had topiaries and stuff in favor of a shelter for an event that nobody asked for. That's where I'm coming from.
Now there were also some like picnic tables, and that were in Tower Gardens. There were some, people were disgruntled that it was covering up a lot of the different, markers on the
Hmm.
ground, telling you about the history of the park. But those tables, I think they're just temporarily parked there. From what I understand, they're going to be going into the shelter once that's complete.
Oh, maybe that is true. I noticed the same tables they had in Beagle Scout Acres as well. So the park obviously got like a big thing. I like the fact that they have seating in there, but I did also kind of notice that it was like, uh, it's covering up like the cool planters, and that's like a really cool part of the park. So I'd hate to see that done.
Yeah, but we're a few weeks off from really talking about it. But I am interested to see how they go about promoting the Food and Wine Festival this year. Moving on, Ryan, I heard nothing but rave reviews about the Beast, the track work that was done over 1,600 feet of track, the Gravity Group doing their thing,
Mm.
really enhancing the ride experience there. Some writers, mentioning that, they noticed, they were now getting some airtime over that, that second drop going into the brake shed run that had
Mhm.
never been there before, experiencing it. Did you get a chance to ride it?
I did not, but everything I heard was very positive about it. Um, the word that got to me on, I guess, Friday was that they added an airtime hill, and that's how misinformation gets around. They didn't add any airtime hill; you just can finally feel some airtime that the ride should. Because I always noticed, like even for decades now, you come down and you kind of feel like a little bit of floater coming around there. So, um, if it's a smoother, better experience, maybe trimmed a little less. I've heard that, not entirely positive. Maybe it can create that better experience, but I'm going to try to hit that up the next time I visit the park, and I can give you a full report on how it's doing.
Yeah, better bank going into that brake shed. The thing that I really got a kick out of though was the number of Kings Island fans, coaster enthusiasts, very excited about the track work and how good it's running, but saying it's running better than ever.
Napoleon, like anyone can even know that.
Which I found interesting because they weren't born until the 1990s, or even later for some of these people. So to say better than ever when they didn't ride it from 1979, probably until maybe 2000s, it's kind of strong to say better than ever. But I'm looking forward to trying it myself, and having ridden it since 1979, I think I'll be able to tell, just how good it's running. But I do know, with the work that had been done before, it's running better than it had since 1991. I can say that. But very excited to try this. Again, nothing but rave reviews about it, and I really, really, have to keep, giving kudos to Kings Island for the love and the care that they put into their wooden coasters. You don't see this everywhere, and you keep breathing new life into these coasters, so they're going to be around for future generations to enjoy. And I really appreciate that as a fan of wooden roller coasters.
I do too, and I want to touch on something real quick. I noticed that we didn't put it in the notes, but I absolutely love this. So the Kings Island Trading Company. I don't know if you've seen this yet or not, but the inside's renovated. It's basically the same stuff, but the thing I love is how they brought out the awning to it, so it almost has like a porch kind of feeling. It kind of gives me a Dollywood feel. I really do like this.
Yeah, I saw video of it more so than I have photos. The photos are kind of taken from these angles that you're showing me, but some video and that I saw as guests were walking up toward it. Definitely has that Dollywood vibe to it. Even that frontier town to Magic Kingdom kind of feel to it a little bit, I think. So I'm looking forward to seeing that in person.
Yeah, it's again, the inside is definitely nicer. It's essentially the same products. But I would say it's almost like a mini emporium, because they got rid of the Squishmallows. So they no longer have Squishmallows. Those have been moved to one part of the emporium. But they have more like odds and ends and Kings Island hoodies and t-shirts and stuff like that. So it's definitely a positive change. I'm really happy with it.
All right. Pigpen's Mess Hall, it was reported back to us that they still have the peanut butter and jelly snacks. So that's good to hear.
I saw the sign for that. Yes, that's all I have to say about that.
And Tom and She, I guess it was a big hit with the new pep grilled cheese. So just really great reviews about that.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I didn't try it. I pulled this from somebody posted from the season pass group, but they had wonderful things to say about it. It looks like you get a big old slab of pepperoni. My concern would be that you get like, it almost be like the original classic grilled cheese with like a piece of like pepperoni, like a piece of salami kind of thing on it. So it doesn't really add anything to like the texture, but this is definitely not that. That's a big old slice of pepperoni, and I can't wait to try that. I'm so glad that there are more than 2 options for the meal plan people for that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying this. Also, getting back to brew house, I have to have my pub burger fix sooner than later. A couple things we'll talk on about this a little bit more in depth.
Sure.
Our episode is going to drop on Monday, but Flight of Fear and Backlot Stunt Coaster, some significant changes there for guests.
Significant. The reviews have been very positive for Backlot Stunt Coaster, now Queen City Stunt Coaster. Nobody has said anything really about Flight of Fear. If you didn't get to ride Flight of Fear, what are you doing? Okay, you're probably listening to this when the park's closed, so don't show up there now. Our episode on Monday, I'm going to have video and everything talking about this, and it was almost like an emotional experience to me with how good of a job they did with Flight of Fear. More on that on the upcoming episode.
Yeah, really looking forward to that episode, Ryan. And the freeze-dried blue ice cream made its debut. Ryan, you want to talk about that?
You know what, Don? I don't want to talk about that, but fortunately, I've got people. I actually tried it with our field reporter, Noah, and this was what we had to say about it.
All right, I'm here with the field reporter Noah, and we're going to try the new freeze-dried blue ice cream. This is by Freezing with Aubrey, which is exclusive to Kings Island. This is a local company. So they took the blue ice cream flavor and made it a freeze-dried candy. So we're going to try it for the first time, and this is our live reaction. So let's get in there. I'll let you open it. There we go. We're each going to try a piece. Now, these are each, they come in kind of like, it looks like a scoop of blue ice cream, if you can see it there. So, ready? We'll try these together, all right? 3, 2, 1. It's kind of crunchy. It tastes good. What do you think of it, Noah? Thumbs up?
Tastes like blue ice cream.
It does taste like blue ice cream, but it's not cold, to be clear. And it's almost like a chalky, chewy kind of taste with like the blue ice cream as the aftertaste. But we got a whole bag of these. These are $19.99. I found them in the Kings Island Collection store. They should be available throughout the park, though.
Nice.
Yeah, so I wanted to get our live reaction to it. The thing that I didn't realize is that I've got a much bigger mouth than Noah, so he couldn't really talk while he had a mouthful of freeze-dried ice cream. But it was very good. I very infamously not a big fan of blue ice cream, but I actually would get that again. A little pricey. It's $19.99. You get your 10 or 15% discount with your silver, gold, or prestige pass. But it's something you have to try. And Freeze-Dried by Aubrey is actually local to Northern Kentucky, so we'll have to give them a shout out to see if they want to collaborate, do some collab or something. But yeah, give it a shot. I found it in Kings Island Collections, but
okay. I was just going to ask you, where in the park can it be found?
It's funny because so I found it in Collections, which is the old 50th anniversary store for those of you keeping track at home. And then when we decided to do this, which was like the next day, we went to the Sweet Spot and couldn't find it there. They didn't have it. They had other freeze-dried stuff, but not the blue ice cream. So right now, Kings Island Collections is guaranteed. But again, I'm sure that it'll be throughout the park before you know it. Yeah. Cool. Hey, let's move on to some Tower Topics FYI. Okay. So, Don, do you remember how Viking Fury's height limit was changed?
Oh, yeah. We did a full episode on all the different height requirement changes. How can I forget?
Did you enjoy that fact?
I did. I thought it was very, very good information for our listeners to know, what had changed that might impact their visit.
You might want to sit down for this one then, because it's back. So, yeah, this was actually changed on Saturday. So Friday, it was the updated height from what I understand. And then Saturday was this. So riders between 40 and 48 inches must be accompanied by a responsible person. So they had lowered the height requirement without an adult. And then now it's back again. So that's unfortunate. But I mean, at least it's running.
Yeah, true. But appreciate, those that let us know that this had, kind of changed overnight going into Saturday.
Yeah. So it changed to a 40 minimum and 46 inches to ride alone. And now it's back up to 48 inches to ride alone. So it sounds like they did some reevaluation. I don't know what the process is. It seems like it'd be pretty beneficial for a ride like this to have the lowest possible height limit, but there's other factors than convenience that go into this stuff. But this is kind of an FYI.
Yeah, one of the things to, for us to keep an eye on too is they had changed the height requirement on the bat, lowering it to 42 inches. If you look at Cedar Point's website as we record this episode, it's still 48 inches for a very similar ride with Iron Dragon. So it'll be interesting to see if that 6-inch difference remains as Cedar Point opens its season.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell. Buy or sell, Don. Windseeker will need to demonstrate consistent reliability and remain in operation, weather permitting, or it will fall victim to Six Flags budget cuts and be quietly retired after the fall season.
Ryan, I'm going to buy this. I think
Mm.
that Six Flags, they are, very anxious to cut costs where they can. We've seen several parks already have rides retired, some that are surprising to guests, as to why these rides, would have been retired. So I do think it's going to be very important for Kings Island, uh, Park General Manager Mike Kuntz, to be able to show on that report that is seen by corporate every day, which rides were operational, which ones weren't, and why. So I think that when you look at Windseeker, if it has, some of the problems that have plagued it in recent years, and we're not just talking about it being down for wind, but there have been other, issues with it that has, seen it not operate, for, stretches of time. I don't think that that can happen again this year, and that ride survives. I think that would be one that they would be eyeing at the corporate level to make some cuts, because Kings Island hasn't had those yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking. So I think the park wants to do everything it can to not give corporate a reason to retire that attraction. So I'm buying.
Yeah, I'm going to buy that too, simply because, that's the direction things are going. Windseeker had problems at the end of the year. You reported that it was not going to open for the opening weekend. It seems like they might have eked out one cycle randomly at 8:59.
A couple of reasons for that
right.
to kind of, number one, check the box that it was operational on opening day. So
Yeah.
corporate sees that it was open. So maybe, that's a reason. But you also don't want to be seeing corners cut.
Right.
Something needs to be done with it, to keep it reliable, and that you don't want to see corners being cut either, just to, save it from being retired. So there's a lot at stake, I think, with that ride. So if you're a fan of Windseeker, just ride it. Make sure you're getting your rides in when it is operational this year, because we've talked about this on many other episodes. You just don't know, with what the mindset is and which rides, we get to November and we find that they're not coming back next year. So, if you have your favorite rides, make sure you ride them.
Absolutely. Let's move into some industry headline news.
Well, with the industry headline news, we're going to move up north to Sandusky, Ohio, where Cedar Point is getting ready to open its season. It'll begin on May 3rd, and everything right now looks really positive, Ryan, that Top Thrill 2 will be running when Cedar Point opens for the season. They've been doing a lot of test cycles on it, and everything so far has been positive.
That's good. I'm stoked about getting to ride that eventually. I really want to give that a chance. It looks like such a great ride, and so exciting. So I noticed that on Coaster Mania's agenda that got released, Top Thrill 2 is on it, and they've got tentative Siren's Curse ERT if it's ready.
Right. Yeah. No, we're looking at June 6th or something like that for Coaster Mania. That is a very good lineup if both of those rides are ready to go. Both
It's
the morning and the night ERT.
Two new. I know that you adamantly believe that this is not Top Thrill 2's rookie season, but even for the people that go to Coaster Mania, I bet a very big percentage of them have not gotten.
Well, they didn't ride. Yeah, it's new for them, but it's hard to, to have that ride being in that group of new coasters for 2025 when all the marketing dollars and everything went into it being new. Last year, we saw this in Kings Island's history, where the Bat was billed as new for 1981, abundance of downtime. In 1982, they didn't market it as new; they just said improved, more reliable, which wasn't more reliable. So I think you draw a very fine line there. I think the thing that they should focus on, if they're trying to win any awards for best new attractions, and that should be Siren's Curse, and just look at Top Thrill 2 just had a problem-plagued debut season, and it's season 2 for it. That's how I see it. Your mileage may vary.
Absolutely. Now, Don, we're going into May here soon as of this recording of this fine
Hmm.
program. And May is the biggest month for season pass sales at Kings Island.
Historically, yes.
I did not see that coming. I always assumed that like August, like there would be a big rush at the beginning, but you're telling me that it's May. So that means that a lot of people have not purchased their season passes yet.
Or renewed.
Right. So we did an episode a couple months ago about how you can save money by purchasing a season pass by leveraging the fact that the US dollar is strong against the Canadian dollar, and you can buy the Canada's Wonderland Gold Pass and all the add-ons plus the All Park Passport and save some dough. Well, we got its email, and I wanted to read it so we can show the impact of what you can do by simply making a business decision on behalf of yourself. Don and Ryan, thank you for the Canada's Wonderland Pass hack episode, for lack of a better term, which it's not a hack. Nothing against the rules in this. All Park Passport means all parks. I purchased the following at Canada's Wonderland: 4 gold passes, 4 All Park Passports, 4 meal plans, 3 premium paper cup drink plans, and a Fun Picks. Total was $1,368.82 out of my account. The same package through KI would have been $1,818.04. This was a savings of $449.22. I purchased the passes on 4/19 before the KI Gold Pass event. Validated all passes work and add-ons. Purchased last minute through Tower Topics recommendation. Been a KI fan circa 1986. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Ben. This guy just saved $450 by just being a little bit creative with it. When it, and again, I'm a big, so I bought my pass out of Canada. I'm pretty clear out of that. One of the big reasons though, was that it seems like the trend is that if you want to go to Siren's Curse's preview or whatever, you have to have a Cedar Point pass. Well, Alpine Fury looks pretty interesting to me, and they're making that investment in the park. So I decided to go that route. The fact that I saved a few $100s is just kind of an addition to it. But with Kings Island adding this water slide and seem to be cutting stuff here and there and not really making the investment that some of the other parks appear to be making, that decision was kind of easy this year. But Ben, hey, you've been a Kings Island fan since '86, and you just saved yourself $450, and the money still goes to Six Flags, so you don't have to feel bad about it.
No, not at all. Like you said, Ryan, it's making a business decision for yourself, for your family. We've had several people tell us that they appreciated that episode. They weren't aware that you could do that. But it's just something everybody has to make that decision for themselves. But if you have a chance to save $400, $500, $600, why wouldn't you do it, right?
You'd be crazy not to. Now, I'm not sure if pass perks will work at a park outside of your local park, but that's not a benefit that really moves the needle for me. But my question is that, so last time we did that episode, we had a couple people in the comments that are like, why don't you just, display the fact that you're trying to skirt the system and stuff? First of all, you're not skirting the system. You're making the purchase of a product and you're using that product. Second of all, why is a Canadian pass 30% cheaper than our pass? So if the money isn't worth as much, shouldn't it cost 30% more so it doesn't matter where you buy it? It's not like you buy it. I mean, I could see if like there was a hack where if you bought it out of Michigan's Adventure and their gold pass is cheaper, then you could save a little bit of money because that park's small and they have to draw people. Canada's Wonderland's one of the big 4, and it still is. So the fact that it's so discounted there makes me think that maybe we're not. We talk about these reciprocal trade deals that we're trying to do. That's one of those things that they should fix. Yeah.
I feel good, Ryan, anytime somebody lets us know that something that we talked about, provided a service for them and helped them save some money, or made them aware of maybe a dining option that they weren't aware that was available, a merchandise item, or they had a testimonial about the wands at Winterfest, and now they're willing to buy it because they saw how it worked through you and Noah. So anytime something like that happens and it shows that, what we talked about, help provide that service, or, made a situation but better for somebody, that just makes me feel good about what we do here with Tower Topics.
Yeah, we hear it all the time too. We bought this because the bubble one was the first time that I really heard several people come up to me and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm glad you talked about the bubble one. I bought one for my kid. They loved it." There was, I was talking to an employee in the Sweet Spot. I've talked about this before, where I was just asking them if like the ride cakes sell very well, and they're like, they sold okay. And then there was this podcast that did an episode on it, and they flew off the shelves at that point. So we definitely can put our thumb on the scale, and we take that responsibility seriously. So that's why we buy our passes out of Canada.
That's right.
All right. Don, tell me about the t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts, they come in a wicked green color this year, available in whatever size you might need. That includes youth sizes, and they're just $22, includes shipping. If you're interested in one, drop me an email, donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com, or you can message us on our X. We certainly hope you follow us there, which is Tower_Topics. We'll send you the QR code. Once the transaction goes through, we'll get your shirt out to you very quickly. And very comfortable shirt. Everybody that has purchased one from us, says they really like the quality and how comfortable they are. And we heard from a number of people that were wearing them at the park this weekend, and people were noticing and asking them about, whether they're a fan of the show or how they get the shirt. And it's just again, makes us feel good that people are out wearing those shirts.
I had two different people message me in the past couple of days that said, I didn't know you guys offered t-shirts. I mean, I guess some people just listen to the crux of the episode and then they fall off, so they don't hear like our promo for the t-shirts. But they messaged me and they said, I didn't know you guys had t-shirts. I saw them all over the park. How do I get one? So like, I think that's really, really cool. Yeah, $22 including shipping. Order now in time for coaster stock. We'll be right back with the listener questions. All right, first listener question. Eric from Wilmington, Ohio. Eric said, with the speculation of Invertigo and Congo Falls end of life coming, what are your thoughts on taking Congo Falls to the Soak City area with a new theme, possibly putting new life into the old ride? I always wanted to know anyway why, being a water ride, it was put basically in no man's land. I figured if anyone would know that answer, Don would. Plus, thoughts on also maybe trying to find a way to turn the queue for Whitewater Canyon from Soak City as well. It's already a long walk to ride it, so I'm sure there's a way to move it to Soak City and basically keep all the water rides together. I'm not a big fan of getting wet in the main park. I also found out at Carowinds that you can only re-enter 2 times with your pass and an all-park passport. Then you get an X. They sent me to guest services, and they literally weren't going to let me back in without paying. But I told them how far I came, so they printed me a ticket. They also told me they didn't even know that because it's not listed anywhere. Just may want to give the listeners a heads up, and the best bet is to get a stamp. I know at Cedar Point, I've had a problem come and going. I've never had a problem coming and going as I please. Happy coaster season, everyone. So let's break this down. So Congo Falls, moving that to Soak City.
No, I think it would just, it would be cost prohibitive to do that. I mean, what it would, you're talking now, that would be, I don't know, maybe even close to $10 million to be able to tear it out of there, move it over to the water park. You have to remember that when Congo Falls debuted, there wasn't a water park at Kings Island yet. There were plans for it, but it wasn't there yet. Same with Whitewater Canyon. That's
Right.
why those were in the main park. You had the flume ride that has been there. I think it's important to still have some water rides, within the hard park. Not everybody's a aquatics fan. Not everybody's going over to Soak City. So I think you still want to have, those kind of attractions in the hard park. It is still, something that you see around the country, with the different water rides and that. So I would be opposed to having everything water related in Soak City. I think you still need some water elements in the hard park.
Yeah. I mean, why would you take an old unpopular ride and take the money and spend the money to move it? I like the idea. Like, I would love to ride water ride. You know, I mean, Whitewater Canyon, I think is kind of gross, but the other ones I do enjoy. I don't like to get my shoes all soaked and everything. I like how at Cedar Point for their water rides, you can take your shoes off, by the way.
I do
Um,
too.
you can't do that at Kings Island, and I'm not exactly sure why. Now, I promised Noah on Friday that I would ride the log flume with him on Saturday. So I've got waterproof trail running shoes that I wore in preparation for that, which worked out rather well. But yeah, if they're going to do anything in Soak City, they're just going to build something new. And if they're going to do anything with Congo Falls, they're going to tear it down and do something new in that spot. All right. Next question. Chris. Oh, I'm sorry. There's more to this. That you can only enter 2 times with the All Park passport before you get
Right.
an. Do you think that's a glitch or is that a policy? And why would they have a policy like that?
I think it's different wherever you go. I mean, I've not had that problem, whether it's at Kings Island or Cedar Point, coming and going. So to me, I think it's just a consistency thing that from park to park, they all need to get on the same page with that. And if it is going to be limited to how many times you can go out into the parking lot and come back in, that needs to be noted somewhere, that's, easily accessible and known to guests so they don't run into those surprises where they try to get in and it's like, you can only do this twice. This is your third time trying to get in. No, especially when you go long distances, when you're the all park pass, port holder. Say you went to Great America in Chicago, that's 5 or 6 hours away from where you and I live. We ran into that problem. We wouldn't be happy about it. Carowinds is 8 hours from where we live, Ryan. So yeah, I just think there needs to be a little bit more, consistency out there with what they're doing. And, every park operates a little bit differently, but that's one of those things that if you have the all park passport, the rules should be the same across the board.
Well, the language does say unlimited access, but they also don't really go by the rules that they publish all the time. See Prestige Pass. Honestly, I think that was probably a first day or first week thing. I'm sure at Kings Island, if you left and came back twice and then they sent you to guest services, they would just let you into the park. There's no reason if that's the policy, then that's stupid, but fine. But why make it just for all park passport people?
Correct.
All right. I'm just making sure there's nothing else in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next question. Chris from Bethel. Chris said, "Hi, Don. Do you know the owner of the Vortex Jeep that parks in the preferred parking lot? I'm asking because there was an awesome new Jeep themed to the Beast parked there on opening day, and just curious if it's the same owner. Love the newer format the show has."
Well, we appreciate that you like the new format. Yeah, I do know who the owner is, and it's a guy named Donald Green. Huge Beast fan. Yeah, that Jeep has drawn a lot of attention.
And it's not the same owner as the Vortex. That's a woman named Megan who's been on our live streams before. If you want to look back at those.
Correct.
Yeah, cool.
I reached out to Megan just to make sure that wasn't hers.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to make sure because, I thought it might be Donald, who's, again, the big Beast fan, but I wasn't sure either. So I started with Megan because I knew about the Vortex. And, she was like, no, not mine. That one's Donald's.
I like how she knows him. Next question, Greg from Mainville. He said, "Hello, Don and Ryan. Love the podcast. The wife and I were wondering how much does it cost for a company or someone to rent out the park for an entire day? Do you think someone has ever rented out the park for an entire day?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you want to do. Are you looking to have something that's just in the evening, 5 to 9, 6 to 10 type of a thing? Do you only want a small area of the park open? Do you want all the restaurants? Do you want the full spectrum of things, where it's like, the P&G weekends where it's the entire park to yourself. So it's expensive. So, if you want to do that, you want to rent out the entire park, be ready to write a check for about 7 figures or a little higher.
Right. Well, and I my understanding is that obviously you're way more in touch with this, but there are complicated deals. Like, I don't think that necessarily a P&G probably just drops the money because they can. But like when Cincinnati Pride does their Pride night, which is what you're referencing with like the 5 to midnight thing,
Right.
I think that probably they're held to a certain number of tickets sold.
Right. Yeah. There's a guarantee that you have to be able to, perform. So there's all different kinds of ways to do it, but it just depends on, what do you want? What are you looking for that experience to be? You're looking to have, 15, 20 something thousand people enjoying the park, or is it just going to be a smaller scale, 3 to 5,000 type of a crowd? So yeah, I mean, there's different ways, different guarantees that you have to do. There's a certain, you can just pay a certain revenue, certain fee to do it. There's not many dates that you can do it, where the park's going to be open for you. So, but yeah, I mean, you got to have a lot of money to be able to do that, and a lot of friends
and a lot of connections. All right, Kevin from the great state of Ohio. He said, "Has it been confirmed whether or not the PR guy will get to play the hero for those who missed out on Hollywood Nights by running the Beast trimless at Coaster Stock?" Have you heard anything?
I've not, heard back on that, since I was, told what they were trying to do, because they wanted to, what they thought would upstage Holiday World's event. So I have not heard back or anything like that. I don't, we talked about, Ryan, we don't think it's, necessary that you have to do that. The ride experience on the Beast, yeah, would it be a little bit enhanced? Would it be special for those attending the event? Yeah. Is it going to surpass what Holiday World's doing with the Voyage being trimless? Not even close. So,
No.
But we've not heard back. If we do, we'll let you know. But it's getting closer to, it's the dates for Coaster Stock where they've, got to start shipping out the materials and everything. So that information, if you are attending the event, I'm sure that they would let you know that that is one of the surprises that they have for you if they're able to do it.
Yeah. And if you have your own questions to send Tower Topics, Don, take it away.
You can do so by sending us a message on our X. Follow us, Tower_Topics. You can send an email to me. Subject line, just put question for TT. And it's Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. Just make sure either way, let us know your first name and where you're from. City, state. We like to let everyone know where our listeners are. And I got to tell you, Ryan, I don't know, we would always get anywhere from, 15, 18, of these submitted for a week and up to do 3 or 4 per episode. But in the last, 10 to 14 days, I mean, it has exploded. We're getting lots and lots of different emails, and where they're coming from, it is impressive to me, since we're Tower Topics, we're Kings Island, it's located in Mason, Ohio. But these emails are coming from, coast to coast, Canada. So we really appreciate how, widespread now that the listenership is, and that you wanted to be part of the show by submitting your questions. Nothing's, there are no dumb questions. Anything that you have that you want to ask, we'll try to work it into the show.
Cool. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.